Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain.
Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully you guys are having a great day. What is today? I don't even know. It's Monday. It feels like a Monday. It feels like a Monday. How's everybody doing tonight though? How you guys doing? I missed you last night, but I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight. I did make a members post. If you saw it, then you saw it. But yeah. Just took the night off, kind of just needed a night. But you know, hey, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I'm a happy person. They couldn't have done a better job if I asked them to. They did really good. So I feel a lot better today. I've been running like nonstop today. It's been crazy. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Tanya or TitaniumBuilt, and we do talk all things true crime here. So if that's something that you're into, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, all the fun things, and we're going to get into some Idaho content this evening. So let me say hi to some people in the chat, and then we'll get right to it because people like that. I had someone earlier like say, do you have to have a 3-minute intro and say hi to everybody? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I do. Absolutely. And some days I don't, and some days I do. Hey, Cyber Warrior. Hey, Ladybug. And I missed you guys. Hey, Princess. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Dawn. How you doing today, Dawn? Hey, Mary Beth. There's Mary Beth. I knew I saw her in here. Hey, Mike. And Tempest, I didn't know that you had like children that were of age of like putting them to sleep. When you said that in the chat, I was like, I learned something new about her today. I like learning new things about you guys. Hey, Sasha. Welcome in. Hey, Sarah. Oh, and Ladybug, you'll like this because you've been asking about my prosthetic, my eye. I went today and they fixed it a little bit, so I like it a lot better. But it's making a little clicking noise, and so I don't really like that so much. Hey, Stephanie, welcome in. Let's see, who do we have in here? Hey, Ashley. Today, everybody. Hey, Lisa from Mississippi. Oh, wow. That's my favorite state to spell. I remember when I was younger, that was like my favorite one because it was big, like when you're little, but it was easy to spell. I remember that. 3-hour early dismissal. Wow. You guys getting snow? I didn't see the first part or the coldness. Hey, Aries. $750. I know. I should have. Why didn't I bet? I'm not a gambling woman. That's why. Vincent, quick funny story. Vincent gave me money one time. He gave me, I think, yeah, he gave it to me through my PayPal. He sent me $100. We went to like a casino. He said, "Here, go like do something, or like go like do whatever you want to do." Because he likes to play like this baccarat game, and so I'm not. That's like his thing. I'm like a penny slots kind of gal. Well, I went to go take my money out of the machine, and the machine didn't give me my money. And it was like doing all this weird stuff and lighting up colors. It was like I won something, but I didn't because it was the ATM and it wasn't giving me anything. And so I was freaking out and I thought I lost my money. So we had to like go check the transactions. Oh, it was a big thing. So after that, I didn't gamble at all. I felt like I just lost $100 right there at the ATM. So I decided not to gamble my money. I just walked around and I took pictures of like all the costumes and stuff. I was like, this is good. Mary Beth, thank you so much for gifting out 20 memberships. Welcome in, everybody. Bringing them in. Aries, one of these days you're going to get these. You're going to get one. Hey, Cash. Did I not see ya? Hey, Lenora. I didn't see Cash. Cash, you got me blocked. Hey, Cat K. That'd be funny. Wonder if I could like block myself. Well, yeah, Aries, they are. I feel like it's gonna. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna settle down a little bit for some reason. Oh, I bet Ladybug's just saying hi to people that got memberships. I was like, I'm not seeing any of these people. Nana deserves. I mean, I've said some things. I have nothing like bad. She just reminds me of my aunt, and me and my aunt are like water and oil when we're together. It's just one of those things. But at the same time, it's my aunt, so I got love for her. But she's welcome over here. Yeah, always. Everyone's welcome here. Even if you have a difference of opinion, we love that. We love that over here on the channel. We want everyone to be able to feel comfortable, feel safe, have a difference of an opinion, and just be able to come here and relax and have fun, while we're talking about true crime. I know true crime isn't sometimes not the funnest. I'm going to turn my mic up a little bit. But I try to make it as bearable and tolerable as we can. And this is a case that we've been covering on the channel forever. Since I think we started covering this November 16th. I don't think it was the 13th. I think it was like 2 days or 3 days later, but it was around the 16th of November, 2022. And we're still covering it. Haven't went to trial yet. So thank you, Mary Beth, for gifting out 5 more memberships. Oh my gosh, look at all those people. Everybody's going to be all green. They're all going to come in here. Everybody thank Mary Beth. Mary Beth's the best. Hey, Mandy. So let me see. So right now in this case, Ann Taylor is she's attempting to, and this is, part of her job, is attempting to get the DNA evidence thrown out. She's saying that law enforcement obtained it illegally. And it's just like a really, I guess, kind of a touchy kind of subject because they don't really have laws for this kind of stuff yet. It's all new, like technology. But like I said, we've caught other people this way and put them behind bars. So we can't say rules for thee and not for him. Not for him. But she also wants the majority of the search warrants thrown out. So she wants some stuff thrown out. And I don't see that it really happening. But They may hold a Frank's hearing in case. I don't know. That's what we're waiting to hear. We're waiting to hear from Judge Hitler herself. I'm surprised that he hasn't made a response yet. So he did announce, though, and we talked about this in our last live, that he is going to release the transcripts of the closed hearing that they had back on, I believe, the 24th of January, 24th or 25th. So they had that closed hearing. And what they're going to do is he's going to take the transcript. He's going to give a copy to the defense, a copy to the prosecution. And I believe he did that on that same day. And they have 14 days to go through that and see if they want anything redacted out of that, out of those documents or out of the transcript before he releases the transcript for public, for us to consume and read and look over, which is pretty fair. I think that's very fair. I hope the whole dang file, I hope it's not all redacted. That would be a shame. But I think it's fair that he's given us some stuff. So I think it's nice. Hey, Wolfie, welcome in. I feel like Wolfie and Aries would be a force to be reckoned with if you guys had a YouTube channel. Hey, Tony. I would watch that. I would. See, she calls you Aries Bjork too. Me too. Every name that you have on here, I wouldn't be able to tell you what your name is on YouTube, but I would say Aries Bjork. I would say that's Aries. That's Aries. Been with me for a long time. Okay, so tonight, wanted to watch these little these episodes that are coming out. So Fox Seattle has created a series of videos. They're already on their third video, and I'm just now finding episode. I just found episode 1 a couple of days ago. I just didn't have a chance to show it to you guys yet. So I thought we would watch them and commentate through them and just see what they have to say. Give me your opinions. I love that. And we'll see what, they're saying. Basically, they're going back through, I guess they're going to go back through all the evidence. I watched this earlier. I don't want to spoil it too much, but they're going to go back through all the evidence and all of the, everything that we kind of found out when we found out, kind of like what we're doing, and seeing if they draw a different conclusion. They're investigators. So let's see what they have to say. And thank you guys for being here. I appreciate that so much. If you guys don't mind, hit the like button. It does help send this video out into the algorithm, and then more people come in and they chat, and that's what we want. So I appreciate you. And thank you, Mary Beth, for gifting out 25 memberships already. My goodness. Mm-hmm.
I remember the day that we first heard about it, and we heard 4 college kids killed over in Idaho.
New details in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. Police say the 4 victims were targeted, and the killer or killers used a knife or other type of edged weapon in this attack.
For now, police are calling the deaths homicides after responding to initial reports of an unconscious person on a road near the University golf courses.
We do not have a suspect at this time, and that individual is still out there. We cannot say that there's no threat to the community.
It wasn't until the days that followed that we really understood the magnitude of what happened and the horror of what happened in that house.
The county coroner gave out new details about the stabbing deaths, saying that the students were in their beds, likely asleep when they were killed. The coroner telling News Nation that she believes that the killer must have been very angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
This was obviously someone who was enraged.
Do you think angry? I mean, maybe.
At these victims. They were knifed.
You have to have some anger.
People, the police and so on who came to the scene said that this was the bloodiest crime scene they'd ever seen.
And the blood tells you stories. The blood tells you stories like reading the blood spatter. You can read the blood spatter.
Of course, we heard that he followed all 3 female victims on Instagram and on social media. And he also allegedly incessantly messaged one of them.
And I can tell you, he was obsessed with one more of those girls. They were the targets. The other people were killed because they were there.
These bright young lives, these kids with so much promise, and evil had come stalking them in their house in the middle of the night.
Investigators gave us an update on the rumor that one of those victims may have had a stalker. Fox 13 News reporter AJ Janovo joins us live from the newsroom tonight. Now, AJ, you've been following this story. You were just in Moscow last week.
It was early enough in the process that I didn't realize the scale of what this was going to be becoming in the next few days and weeks and months and now years.
When this happened, I was an anchor in Boise, Idaho for KTVB at the time. My task that day was to, look at these statements and look at the social media pages and really just find out who these students were.
Today marks a week since 4 University of Idaho students were murdered, and police have not named a suspect yet. The coroner giving out new details about the stabbing death, saying the students were in their beds, likely asleep when they were killed. Police have also released a map and timeline of events before this tragedy. They say the night began with 2 of the victims at the Corner Club in downtown around 10 p.m. The pair left at 1:30 in the morning and headed to a food truck down the street. At the same time, their roommates, the other 2 victims, were at a party at a fraternity. Both groups went home for the night around 1:45 in the morning.
A lot of crime doesn't happen in Idaho very often, but when it does, it seems like it's really weird or really bizarre, and it sticks out and it gains nationwide attention. And the fact that it happened at the University of Idaho, at an off-campus housing was just, it really resonated with so many people, and it put the entire state on edge.
It was freezing in Moscow. There was snow everywhere. And you have this secluded home, which for, at this point, probably a week, if not longer, still has the police tape around it. And through one of the windows, you can see a neon sign that says good vibes. And that just was such a weird and haunting thing to show up, know what happened here, and kind of see this glimmer of a life.
When I think of this case, I think my mind initially goes straight to the picture of the 4 students. I mean, them smiling, not a care in the world.
It's almost like it's a posed picture that was created for this moment. It doesn't seem realistic, like that they all would be together, that they would all be smiling. They're on each other's shoulders. They're so close. And that image is so tragic.
It was Kaylee, it was Xana, it was Maddie, it was Ethan. They were 4 students, 4 individuals, 4 people who were sisters and brothers and daughters and sons. And it hit home.
They were very attractive, very popular, very smart, very cool kids. And they fit into who an incel would hate.
What's an incel case?
Involuntary celibate. Maybe he'd met him and they brushed him off, or else he just didn't have the confidence to approach him.
If he did commit these crimes, he was somebody who was fantasizing about some type of relationship between himself and certainly the one that he was incessantly messaging. But just what that relationship might look like, who knows where that fantasy was going.
Their psychological issues don't just pop out then. And that's when they act on them. But it's been brewing for a long time.
Hannah and Bryan, police have actually remained fairly tight-lipped about certain parts of this case. No suspects have been arrested. They're looking for a fixed blade knife used in the murders.
Why use a knife to murder?
I'm not a psychologist, but it's up close and personal, and it's a lot more, just like strangling, it's a lot more personal than shooting somebody, and you're a lot more involved.
Do you guys think that maybe he, like whoever this person is that did this, they chose a knife? Do you think it's because it was intimate? Or do you think it was because it was quieter than using like a gun, let's say, or a gun? I better start spelling stuff out. Hey, Samantha.
Let's go to Freudian. Let's look at Freudian terms. Like, it's very phallic. And
I mean, I guess it's effective.
And if you are using it to kill somebody and stabbing somebody repeatedly, there's something very intimate about it. And if a killer chooses to use this choice of weapon, usually it's a feeling that's very personal. It's very penetrative. It's extremely violent.
Has he been evaluated? I mean, what's going on in his head? What do we know about him? When you look at like people like the Green River Killer.
Did you hear that blade come out of that sheath? That was pretty loud.
Ridgeway.
Let's see if I can go back, like, so you guys can hear it. It's like right there.
It's a feeling that's very personal. It's very penetrative. It's extremely violent.
Has he been evaluated? I mean, what's
Like, that's pretty loud. I don't know. I might hear that.
going on in his head? What do we know about him? When you look at like people like the Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway, or like, Ted Bundy, these people,
Oh, geez.
they're wired completely differently. Is he one of those people?
Is this guy a psychopath? Maybe, maybe not. It's hard because they work at trying to act normal.
There's also arguments about another incident that happened in another house. Was he looked at? Was it somebody else? If it was somebody else, maybe that's somebody else that did this. Something I've always thought is there's nothing in nature that can be, sliced so thin that it doesn't have two sides. Evidence doesn't lie.
To think that the real killer might still be out there and it's not Bryan Kohberger, that's a terrifying thought, because that means this could happen again and no one would know why or when or how. I can't even imagine what that would mean for the families.
Do you think he attended the memorial, the vigil that happened?
I would guess that he would have, yes. He wants to see, how much damage he did. The more damage, the happier he would be.
This case is not going cold. We have tips coming in. We have investigators out every day interviewing people. We're still reviewing evidence.
There are still more questions about the murders that remain unanswered, with a murderer still on the loose 25 days after these slayings.
In the first few days after the murders, it was a little bit frustrating because the police were not putting out a lot of information. And so there was a lot of speculation about what happened. You see these beautiful young women that get murdered. You start thinking back to the days of Ted Bundy. I mean, this is an area famous for serial killers here. We've got Gary Ridgway. We've got horrible murders that scarred communities for years, that had women looking over their shoulder everywhere they went.
It's been days since the police department released any new information in this case. The last major update was released 2 weeks ago on December 7th. That's when police say they were looking for a white Hyundai Elantra spotted near the crime scene the night of the murder.
There was a time there where police were holding these news conferences, but they had really nothing new to report. I'm sure he was probably watching that too, right? What do you think was going through his mind then?
What happened?
Yeah, I think all the way up until he was caught, there was a sense that he was smarter than everybody. And now there's a cat and mouse game going on with the authorities. And on the other hand, if he wants the attention and wants to be caught, he would have felt excited. I would think that there's a level of, okay, now they're getting on to me. Now, how long is this going to take?
I think as the case stretched on, the public was getting very, very irritated and just wanted to know who the killer was.
Well, today, the Moscow police issued a press release with no new information, only updated numbers on how many tips they've received. They've gotten more than 7,600 emails, 4,300 phone tips, and 4,500 photo submissions. Police keep saying cyber sleuths are causing issues for police investigating this case.
Oh, I'm sure people thought they were helping. I'm sure they thought they were scouring these videos that everyone else was looking at.
Everybody scoured the videos. I mean, we all did, we all really did. Oh, my doggy wants in, but I'm trying to get him used to not being in here because we're redoing everything. It'll be done in a couple weeks. I'm excited.
And perhaps they saw something in these videos that maybe police missed, or maybe someone else, an investigator, missed. But I think there's a difference between you calling someone and saying, police, I saw this in a video, versus me starting a TikTok and saying, I know who the criminal is. I know who's behind this, when really you didn't.
Now, a history professor.
See, that needs to be brought. I just need to clip that and put that out for everybody. That's true.
professor from the University of Idaho is suing a TikToker for spreading rumors. TikTok personality Ashley Gillard accused Professor Rebecca Schofield of the murders. The lawsuit, filed Wednesday, points to a number of videos posted to the platform that attempted to tie the teacher to the killings. The TikTok personality posted a video yesterday saying she is not going to stop posting videos.
Photos start getting leaked of the girls who are out the night before they're killed. They're out getting some food. You start to see the guy they're with. And so the public, the online community starts latching on this. These keyboard crime fighters start trying to solve the case. They must be that guy. He was with them. You can see they start trying to analyze their body language, start trying to look at how they acted.
The Moscow police kind of were non-existent in the reporting that we're doing. I don't remember going to any specific press conferences where police were kind of providing information. A lot of what we were getting was through social media, it was through Facebook, and it was tough. It was almost as if we were walking through a movie set that the cast wasn't on. And so this was the first time that we saw that community of that school fully with that concern of, are we safe here?
Nearly 3 weeks after the gruesome stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students, their pairs will be coming together tonight to finally say goodbye. And what makes this case especially terrifying is that the killer is still on the loose.
Fox 13's AJ Janovo joins us live from the KB Activity Center in Moscow, where that vigil is set to begin at 5 p.m.
That was the first time, realistically, that we heard their names said correctly. That was the first time we heard about these young adults, who they were.
The beauty of what they have and what makes them special.
Such a happy, such a great kid, such a perfect little baby.
Because everything up until this point had just been like a picture and a name. And that was the first time that we had heard from the people that it truly impacted.
To make sure that you spend as much time as possible with those people, because time is precious and it's something you can't get back.
Toward the end of the evening, the dome went dark, but only briefly, as members of the community illuminated the dome using their phones, a reminder that even in the darkness, there's a path forward.
I think, at the end of the day, it was terrible, but the entire state came together and they were able to, grieve together and support these families together. And sometimes that, something beautiful can be born out of tragedy. And that was something really beautiful to see.
And we ask that the memory of Ethan, Kaylee, Xana, and Madison be a light that dispels the shadow of these days.
Do you think he attended the memorial, the vigil that happened?
I would guess that he would have, yes. He wants to see, how much damage he did. The more damage, the happier he would be.
It's another part of their work.
I mean, he could have enjoyed that, though, from the comfort of his apartment. It was broadcasted online. He didn't have to actually be there, right? I mean, I don't know if I would go. Let's just say, if you're thinking ahead and you do get caught, you don't want to be on camera being at the school, at the vigil. Like, I don't know,
if you will, of their art piece. This is a part of it. It's like, I've done this thing and now I get to see, how people are responding to what I did. It's pretty egocentric.
But it's hard to murder 4 people and not leave evidence behind, no matter how smart you are. I saw so much speculation online about the killer, about the motive, about somebody seen on video with the girls the night they were murdered. And I talked to a lot of detectives about this, and pretty much every one of them said, just ignore that. That's just noise. That's not evidence. These days, they rely a lot on the science. And ultimately, it was the science that led to the identification of Kohberger.
Live from Fox 13, this is breaking news.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Again, we've just learned that a suspect is in custody connected to the killings of 4 University of students.
A man in his mid-20s taken into custody about 3 o'clock this morning, found in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
A nationwide manhunt for a killer ends here in the Poconos. Bryan Kohberger, the man police say murdered 4 college students in Idaho last month, is in custody tonight.
Kohberger.
We're trying to answer who Bryan Kohberger is, the man who moved from Pennsylvania to study in Pullman, and what could have possibly been the motivation behind stabbing 4 unsuspecting undergrads.
weeks after the attacks. People magazine is reporting that when Pennsylvania police arrested Bryan Kohberger at his parents' home, they found several pictures of one of the women.
The New York Times investigation pulling the curtain back on Bryan Kohberger.
So the newspaper found social media postings from Kohberger from 2011, and in them he wrote about not feeling emotions.
I wanted to start looking into the mind of this man and figure out what made him tick. Why would he do something like this? And the comment I got was, "That boy ain't right."
That boy ain't right.
You know, a lot of individuals, they will start off with fantasies and things like that, but they'll never think they'll cross the line. It seemed like several escalating factors then led to the final decision to take out his rage on these people.
So in his fantasy world, was he picturing the police investigation and figuring he'd get away with it?
I'm sure he was. Yeah, I'm sure he was, which it's always the worst mistake, you know.
Thinking you're smarter than the cops?
7 long weeks coming down to this.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger.
The man accused of the brutal crime behind bars.
When I first saw Kohberger, what shocked me was his lack of emotion. Look how composed he appeared, with the world's eyes on him, being accused of being a mass murderer. And it almost seemed like it didn't affect him at all.
He looked creepy. It was weird just to see him, but also we all want to know who was that person, and now we see him. And my thought was, that's the guy. That's the guy.
Something in the look in his eyes, you think he's a normal guy, but the boy just ain't right.
It seemed like he had a mask on, if you will, or you never really got a sense of who he was. And I don't think that'll change now.
He was arrested in eastern Pennsylvania. Take a look at his mugshot. Records say that he was taken into custody at his parents' gated community earlier this morning.
The images were very, I guess, visceral. Him just kind of with a emotionless face and in this bulletproof vest. For me, this was, at the time, the answer to a lot of questions.
We did learn what...
I mean, he was pretty stoic, you know? If I, and this is just me, this is just me. If I were, my other dog wants to come in now. If I were not guilty of a crime, like especially of this magnitude, like this is mass murder. I mean, this is big. I went to school for criminal justice and applied science, just like Kohberger has. So it's not like I'm not a dummy. I would be throwing myself on the ground in a tantrum, screaming I didn't do it. That's just me. They would have to literally have me in one of those chairs like they wheel you around in, with like the whole nine, or like sedated or something. Like I would be, I don't know, screaming in front of the rooftops. He really he didn't say anything other than I'll be exonerated. I was like, really, that's it. And the lawyer in Pennsylvania told him not to tell him anything because he didn't want to know. Which I would have been nosy. I would have wanted to know.
Is inside these bags taken from Kohberger's home. That evidence includes a black disposable glove, multiple suspect hair strands. Investigators.
Oh, I hope they do. I hope they release the jail calls. I hope they release all that. That will be so great. That'd be so great.
Also found a dark red spot in the apartment and sampled it for testing. Reddish brown stains found on a pillow and multiple mattress covers with stains.
What we do know is their DNA match. We know it's the sheath. We know that there's evidence that he'd been at the place before. You know, we've got phone, GPS, location evidence. We've got the fact that things were found in his apartment at Wazoo. The evidence that he was throwing out, that's a big piece in Pennsylvania. You know, and of course the car. I mean, that was a description of his car that led to him in part.
The warrants allege Kohberger studied other murders and how to avoid detection as part of his preparations.
Kohberger has said he believes the evidence in this case will exonerate him.
The facts will exonerate me is such a braggadocious way when you have been walked across millions of television screens in handcuffs and your face has been plastered next to these victims. I will prove that I didn't do this. You will see that I didn't do this. It was kind of like a stage that he had created where at the time I thought he was going to represent himself.
Would he ever testify? I would highly doubt it. But I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know. I mean, they're going to need to defend him. And one other thing to consider is as they're trying their case on the guilt phase, they're also trying their case on their sentencing phase, trying to humanize him.
The 28-year-old attended Northampton Community College, where he made the dean's list at least 2 semesters, then graduated DeSales University in his home state of Pennsylvania with a master's in criminal justice. This fall, he moved to Pullman to begin his first semester at Washington State, seeking a PhD. Some of those that knew him in school describe him as professional, nice, mature. His prior research includes this, a survey targeting responses from criminals asking how they committed their crimes with prompts like,
DM, I got you. He wasn't on the plane. His girlfriend survived. Plane owned by Motley crew member out of Tennessee involved in deadly crash. And it says Vince, this is TMZ. Vince Neal, not on board plane involved in deadly crash. Girlfriend survives. Thank goodness. Wow. Wow. So I wanted to let you know because I just decided to look it up real quick.
why did you choose that victim? Before making your move, how did you approach the victim? And how did you leave the scene?
This is a person who is interested in criminology because he could be a criminal and he's trying to figure out how the criminal mind works. I think that he probably had a pretty active fantasy life, is my guess. We heard that he followed all 3 female victims on Instagram and on social media. That at least tells us that if he did commit these crimes, he was somebody who was fantasizing about some type of relationship between himself and certainly the one that he was incessantly messaging. But just what that relationship might look like, who knows where that fantasy was going.
I knew that it was an incel. And I actually,
I mean, I have my degree in criminal justice, my bachelor's, and I'm not, I haven't harmed anybody.
gave interviews talking about the murderer being an incel. This is before they had any idea who it was, before they arrested him. He has had a hard time throughout his life finding a date, finding not just a date, but finding a woman who loved him, who wanted to be with him. And so that's a lot of time to fester. There's evidence that Bryan was following these 4 students around. We know that he went around the house several times before the night of the murders.
You know, a lot of individuals, they will start off with fantasies and things like that, but they'll never think that they'll cross the line. And then all of a sudden, certain accelerants happen, and now they've crossed the line. And I think that's what happened in this case.
He was talked to a couple of weeks before the killing by professors who were telling him that he wasn't doing a great job. He was acting differently towards the women students than towards the men. He would put the women down.
He was already getting warnings and they were going to let him go from his position as a TA. Escalating factors then led to the final decision to take out his rage on these people.
We're finally getting pages and pages of concrete evidence in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. The affidavit in this case reveals a surviving roommate came face to face with a man in black, partially masked, but with bushy eyebrows moments after the stabbings. And that partial description and security video of a car like the Elantra that Bryan Kohberger drives allowed investigators to focus on him within a couple of weeks of the crime. The biggest break, though, in the case may have been a small metal clasp connected to the murder weapon, which had all important DNA evidence on it. So in his fantasy world, was he picturing the police investigation and figuring he'd get away with it?
I'm sure he was. Yeah, I'm sure he was, it's always the worst mistake, you know.
Thinking you're smarter than the cops? You got a master's in criminology, but I guess not a graduate degree in actual murder.
For some killers, the planning is the most exciting part because that's the time they have the most control over everything. So they have the idea of exactly how it's going to go. They probably have mapped out the inside. I'm sure if he did this, probably had a sense of mapping out the inside.
But in the heat of the moment, you don't think that way. You don't act that way. He carried a knife in there in the sheath, which was his first mistake. He took it out and either dropped it or sat down, then forgot about it in the frenzy, walked by other people he didn't even see, you know, because he was in the tunnel vision again, that I said.
And a huge adrenaline rush, too, I would imagine.
Yeah, huge adrenaline rush, yeah.
He was in.
I personally think maybe when DM saw him, that he was heading maybe to the third floor to retrieve the knife sheath, because it says that he appears to be going out the back slider door, but that doesn't mean that he was or he did, right? It just says that he appears that that's where he was going, but he could have been maybe going upstairs to try to retrieve it. And then maybe he saw Dylan and was like, forget that shit. And he like decided to, you know, go ahead and peace out and like get out of there. Maybe he did go out the back slider door after that. Maybe he decided to go turn around and go out the front door. We don't know. Well, they say back slider door, but I say front door.
Kind of a fog at that point, like a killing fog. Like he just finished doing these things and he was now just needing to leave.
So his cell phone pinged again from the house about 5 hours after the murders. There's always this thought that the killer returns to the scene. Why would he come back?
Well, maybe he wanted to see if anybody discovered it yet, see if the police were there.
It seems to me that I think he came back early, like it was around 9 o'clock or so when he came back, and they hadn't called the police yet. So I'm sure he must have been very confused as to why.
And then things probably started falling into place in his mind, and he realized, oh my God, I've left the knife sheath. And then he's frantically debating with himself, should I go back in and get it?
I mean, unless he didn't see Dylan and he thought he unalived everybody in that house and he was going to go back and get the knife sheath. But then maybe he just like chickened out, like just was like, he just didn't want to. He was like, no, it's too big of a risk.
Because that may have been what was going on in his mind if he did not mean to leave the knife sheath. I could imagine him frantically going back and forth in his mind. Should I go back in and get this thing because I'm going to be, excuse my French. I've gone kind of one of two ways when I've talked about how somebody who's getting his PhD in criminology could, if he is guilty of these crimes, how could he make so many mistakes? Now, let's look at it from the perspective, what if Bryan Kohberger, if he is guilty of this, wanted to get caught?
They're going to leave us on a cliffhanger like that. Wow. Would you look at that? But they have season, well, it's episode 1, but it's different. So it's weird how they're doing that. Okay. So they're doing like a episode, like, you know, telling it more like a documentary like this. And then they're doing another episode. So they have like 2 episode 1s. And the second episode, they are talking over the evidence and doing stuff like more of that nature. And it's 2 journalists, and they're talking through notes that they have obtained through, like, you know, private investigators that they've had look at the case and things of that nature. So it's pretty interesting. I thought we would go over these 2 tonight. And then we could always do episode 2 whenever you guys want to watch that one. But yeah, we'll watch this one. We'll see where we're at after that. So yeah, because I have a dentist appointment tomorrow morning, 8:30, y'all. Can you believe that? Waking me up at 5 a.m. I'll be sleeping. I'll be sleeping in the dentist chair. I bet you. Okay. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it so much. I'll go ahead and hit play and we'll commentate kind of through this one, just like we did the last video. If you guys hear something and you're like, wait a minute, tell me to pause it. We can always rewind it and go back.
Welcome to this podcast episode of Bryan Kohberger, Inside the Idaho Murders. I'm AJ Janavel. We are taking the time to look into this case. It's a case that probably everyone has heard of. It's been in the public eye for years. But what we're doing differently is we are talking to experts across the board. We're journalists. We've been covering this for months and years at this point, but we're talking to lawyers. We're talking to detectives. We're also speaking with mental health experts about the specifics of this case. And what we're learning is that a lot of the information that has been out there might seem different. It might actually be shocking and surprising when you hear how these experts are looking at it. Today, joined with Shira Matsuzawa. Shira, you have been covering this case. You were in Idaho when it happened. We've been seeing this information for months, for years, all of the details. For the first time really in a long time, we're getting some new updates in this case.
Yeah, you mentioned we've been covering this for years, and we've seen hearing after hearing, but this is probably one of the most consequential hearings because it dealt with the defense trying to get key DNA evidence kind of thrown out of this case, right? They're asking the judge for this. And if that happens, if they're successful, I mean, that could just change the course of this entire case.
Because the DNA is what kind of links everything together. It's like a house of cards almost.
Exactly. It's the whole reason why they have Bryan Kohberger as a suspect. It's the whole reason that they were able to arrest him and charge him. And that's why we have an upcoming trial, right?
Right.
But the defense, they're saying that the whole reason they're trying to toss this out is because that this evidence that was gathered, they're saying that it was illegally obtained, right? That police didn't really go through the proper measures. Maybe even some of them lied in order to get a search warrant. And then they're saying, that this violates Bryan Kohberger's constitutional rights, which prosecution obviously is saying that's not true. I mean, if you find DNA on a knife sheath at a crime scene where 4 students were stabbed to death, then that expectation of privacy goes out the window.
Now tell me about this, because we had this January 23rd date. I think I saw that in so many reports. Some of the experts I was speaking to was like, January 23rd is going to be the day. You're focusing on the DNA. We're talking about the DNA. You're telling me about all these specific things, that knife sheath. Can you tell me like what all is connected to what the defense was bringing up in this case? So that 23rd day, that January 23rd, the day we'd all been hearing about, the defense goes in. What are they basically trying to pitch to the judge?
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that basically the process in which they found that DNA, the investigative genetic genealogy process, that it was done illegally through this. And so that's why they're really just trying to take that out, right?
And the IgG that you're talking about, that's basically like your DNA is in a database.
Correct.
Maybe one of your family members did one of those ancestry things, and now your DNA exists, or another family member committed a crime. So you're saying like this specific DNA is what they were focusing on.
That in addition to Kohberger's entire digital footprint, if you will, right? Because they checked his Amazon records, his cell phone records. They're also bringing up the fact that they went through his trash in Pennsylvania, right? And there was one point actually in that hearing where the judge said, well, hey, if you're throwing things away into the trash, then your expectation of privacy is automatically out the window. Like, well, you can't try and use this as a defense, right?
Which is interesting.
Which I think a lot of people know that. And it wasn't even in his trash can. So I don't even know how much he could argue that. Like it's in the neighbor's trash now. So technically the neighbors own it. If anybody were to own it, which no one does when you sit it out, it's just fair game. But it would be the neighbor's trash because he put his trash in the neighbor's trash. My dog's trying to break in the door right now. I don't have her bed in here though.
Because I heard some experts talking about that too, and they say if you throw your trash away, it's kind of public game. And in my head, I was thinking about think about like the public documents or the private documents.
I'm sorry, but could you imagine? Could you imagine if he just like in his underwear or whatever, he's down there like putting his trash in the little baggies, and let's say he sneaks out and undercover, he throws the trash away. Could you imagine if he saw like the FBI like sneaking over to get the trash and he just went running out there like screaming, hollering? I could just see it being a scene.
Documents rather that you would toss out. And so I did hear that where one of the experts is saying what you throw away is not, that's not private. And so you're saying that this was something that they brought up, like what you put in the trash is trash. Like you can't expect that that's your privacy. But that's how you're saying they got his DNA and confirmed it with all the other information.
In addition to a bunch of other avenues, right? And I think a lot of people they probably hear this and they're saying, why is the defense doing this, right? What is the point of this and putting these families through this, going through all of this? And it's simply for the fact that the defense has nothing to lose, right? They can, they could either do this now, maybe they fail, but at least it opens up the doors for later down the road for an appeal.
Right.
So,
And I was actually, because you're bringing that up, I was talking to a legal expert in the area with truly decades of experience, Ann Bremner. And I sat down and I talked to her exactly about what you're saying. And it's basically the question is like, hey, is this really going to work? You're bringing, you're trying to throw out the whole case as a defense attorney. We have been covering this case really for years. You've had detectives on this, you've had federal investigators on this. You are trying to throw this whole case out. And so I asked Ann that question that you bring up, and she said, yeah, of course the defense is going to try to get their case thrown out. They're going to do everything they can, like in sports terms. It's like the Hail Mary or like the half-court shot, the buzzer beater. Because why not? Why not try to do that?
Right. And
I think it could work on appeal. Like it could help them in a way on their appeals. Like they can go back to be like, this is what we've said. This is what we've been saying.
If it is successful, well, that just tumbles the whole case for the prosecution, right? I mean, everything is linked to this key DNA evidence, right? It's the whole reason why they were able to arrest Kohberger. It's the whole reason they found Kohberger. It's the whole reason why he was charged and why we're here, with a scheduled trial coming up this summer. So it'll be interesting.
If they throw away the DNA and then they get rid of the, like they say the warrants were illegally like written or whatever by law enforcement, that it would put a huge damper on this case. Like I don't know how you come back up from that.
To see what happens.
But there's a lot of stuff I'm sure that we have no idea even about. Like when we get in a trial and they bring out them 3D images of the home, and they have the mock house and they're showing what happened. And I think it'll be a little more detailed than what we got in the PCA.
The Judge Stephen Hibbler, said that he will make a decision, a ruling on this later on at some time. Again, this happened last week, right? Thursday, Friday.
So we don't even know what the official result has been yet.
Right.
It's still up in the air.
It's still up in the air. So it could happen any minute from now. So we shall see. The first portion of that hearing, though, the first day, rather, Thursday, the first 5 hours were closed to the public. So,
what does that mean? So when you say that,
no one knew what happened, right? If you were tuning in via Zoom or YouTube, all you would see was a blank slate that said that this portion was closed to the public.
Even though at that point they were saying like this is going to be available, because I think I was downstairs, I was getting ready to go out to my story, and I asked you, like, hey, what are you doing today? And you're like, I'm on this hearing, and I looked, and your computer screen was like, we're not open yet, essentially. Yeah. So
yeah, it was essentially like watching paint dry, because we were just sitting there waiting for it to start, and nobody knew when it would start, right? The judge did give us a heads up and say, hey, parts of this will be open to the public, parts of it may not be.
Right. Was there any explanation on like how they determined that? Because like January 23rd, that's our day, so we tune in, and it's just this blank slate of like.
There was some explanation. I mean, it was essentially like the things that were being covered might, could potentially sway potential jurors later down the road, or something to that extent. So they're trying to be mindful of this, right? Because at the end of the day, there's still a trial coming, right? This isn't just a hearing; it's in connection to what's coming down the road. But the judge did say, or the court said, that they will unseal the transcript for part of that, for what was closed to the public. By February 11th.
Interesting point is this case, like kind of like maintaining how you can even take this to court, because who doesn't know about this case? And you're talking about the possibility of like, will jurors kind of be able to remove their own feelings and their own emotions from what they've heard or what they feel or what they see and have seen, and what the news has been saying. You have this person, you have a picture of this suspect, the person charged, Kohberger, and you've seen him in these orange jumpsuits, you've seen him walking across. And so that's such an interesting point that you bring up, is like, hey, we got to maintain the sanctity of this trial. When I was talking to Ann, I kind of asked her, Ann Bremner, this legal expert, is it possible to have a fair trial when there's been so much emotion, so many storylines, so much information already out in the public? And what she said at the time was, yeah, that's how it works. We know that we all have our own internal biases, but when you go into that hearing, when you go into that as a jury, you kind of have to remove those, and you have to look at it as a blank slate. And so that's so interesting, because there is so much already out there that you're saying the judge is still trying to maintain that.
Right. And, I think in prior trials, it's not that you had never heard of a certain trial or Bryan Kohberger in order to be a juror. It's just that you are able to go in there and still, listen to the facts and not be biased when you come in there, right?
Right.
You're an unbiased jury. I will say, the Ada County Courthouse has dealt with this kind of scenario in the past, right? Last year, they had the Chad Daybell trial. The year before that, they had the Lori Vallow trial. So 2 high-profile trials that have received national, international attention. So they've been through this before. And so this is kind of just another one that they're going to deal with later this summer. But I will say, I sat down with Judge Stephen Hippler, I don't know, last year and the year before. And
Was this when you were in Idaho?
when I was in Idaho.
So you have like your own kind of personal connection to this area.
Right. I'm from Boise. I worked in Boise as a journalist. And so it's interesting, though, because he told me back then when he was covering, or because he is the trial court administrator judge, right? So the only difference is now he's the presiding judge in this case. And so, but previously he told me for Lori Vallow, they summoned 1,800 potential jurors for that case. For Chad Daybell, it was 2,500 potential jurors. And at that time, he was telling me that's a record number of potential jurors summoned ever.
How many? 5,000?
To his knowledge.
What'd she say?
So for Chad Daybell, they summoned 1,800 potential jurors.
1,800?
In that case. For Chad Daybell, it was 2,500 potential jurors.
2,500? That's a lot.
At that time, he was telling me that's a
But I mean, he needed all of them.
record number of potential jurors.
Still didn't get him out of
summoned
trouble.
ever
Mary Beth,
to
thank
his
you.
knowledge. And so I talked with the Ada
Thank you
County
so
Courthouse
much.
recently,
Welcome in,
actually, and
everybody.
the judge there, and I was asking, well, what about Bryan Kohberger's trial, right? Are you going to summon 2,500 potential jurors again?
2,500. That is so
A
wild.
lot. And they told me, you know what? That will be Judge Hippler's decision of how many people will be summoned. So it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, he has this experience with past trials. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see 2,500 potential jurors summoned again, or if not more.
That's so fascinating to me too. And I didn't know that, specifically sitting down here with you. I didn't know that. Do you have any kind of rapport with these people? Have you interacted with these people that are going to be a part of this hearing in any way, shape, or form with the work that you did over there?
I have, interviewed people at the Ada County Courthouse
Of course.
on different occasions, including the judge in this case, Judge Hippler. So it'll be interesting to see if he kind of follows the rule book of what happened in the previous trials, or maybe he tosses that out and he creates his own rule book, because one judge I spoke with in the past, he said, there's no one probably more qualified to handle a trial of this magnitude than Judge Stephen Hippler. So we'll see what happens.
That's good
I
news.
want to ask you, because again, getting back to this information, everything that's coming out, as you're sitting there and you're watching these 2 days of hearing, you're basically on pause for 5 hours. Could you see anything from the people in the courtroom, whether it's the judge, whether it's the defense, as this information is being presented to them, what was your take on it?
It's funny you bring this up, because I remember a lot of people walking by my computer and they were saying, the judge looks bored.
Right,
The judge
right.
looks like he doesn't want to be there. And I will say it looked like he was very skeptical of the defense at many points. I mean, he would often interject and ask his own questions about whatever they were presenting. And there were times where, the judge even said, hey, if you find the DNA on this knife sheath, I mean, you can't expect privacy to go out. You can expect the expectation of privacy for Bryan Kohberger.
Right.
It's a crime scene.
And it's kind of going
Right?
back to that
And
half-court
then-
shot, just kind of
Right.
trying anything you can.
Yeah, and some people were saying, the judge was actually making the prosecution's case for them. And then the prosecution would come up afterwards and they'd say, yeah, if you find DNA on a knife sheath, the expectation of privacy goes out the window. It's not like he found it in the drawer.
Right.
And it was exactly what the judge had just said maybe 10 minutes prior. So it was really interesting to see that happen.
And what's so interesting about this is because when you're looking at this,
Mhm.
you're kind of a layperson. You don't know how the legal system works like an expert would.
Mhm.
You might sit there and say, again, why are they trying this?
I mean, Nate running through the parking lot at Lori Vallow. Where's the children? I ain't never seen journalism like that before.
If even you're saying the judge is kind of looking at them are you for real? Are you serious? Is this really what you're bringing up? But when I was talking to Bremner, what she said is that doesn't really matter. Even if it doesn't get approved, even if the judge does say we're not going forward with any of this, you bring it up. You bring up everything that you can to kind of at least put it on the record.
because you're going to have the possibility of retrials. You're going to be wanting to fight, even if this verdict comes out and the defense is not happy with it. But what you're also doing is you're putting that information out there. You're sowing any kind of seeds of doubt that when these proceedings eventually do start, you can go back to that. You can say, hey, we brought this up. It's going to be on the record. Even if they don't get that win and the judge approves all of this information they're bringing up, you can say, we brought it up. It's right here. It's on the record.
Yeah. And speaking of, that hearing, I mean, Kaylee Gonzalez's parents were
Right.
in Boise while those hearings were happening, and it was close to them too for parts of it, and so like you got to feel for
would
these
suck.
families,
Right.
right? At the end of the
Yeah,
day,
he does look taller.
It comes back to these families and their loss and what.
Everything I looked up, like everywhere I've looked up, they said that his driver's license and everything said 6 feet. So that's what I'm going on. But he does look like he's taller. I think it's because he's lean and his shoulders are so broad that he like appears taller.
What they're dealing with, and to have to continually go to these hearings,
Right.
and now to be faced with the fact that the key DNA evidence could possibly be thrown out. Again, we're still waiting for the ruling, but to even have this conversation, I can't even imagine what's going through their minds.
And I've seen that little element because you're watching, you're a journalist, you have a job to do, you're on deadline, and you're on hold. And so all of these things are going through your mind of like, okay, how much longer are we going to have to wait in the context of a professional? But I've seen mentioned several times now, the family had to sit and wait. And you bring that up. Was there anything more to it? Did you see anything, or did you hear anything, or did they address that in any of the proceedings?
They did talk, and they said they can't wait for this to be done with, right? Because then maybe they can find some kind of way to move forward, and some kind of closure. Because at the end of the day, they're just trying to find justice for their kids. It's unimaginable what they're dealing with and what they've been through. And this trial, I mean, let's not forget, it was scheduled to happen already in the past, right? This is it's just keeps getting kicked down the can further and further. And so yeah, my heart goes out to them.
One thing I want to ask, because we've been kind of talking about like everything that they did throughout, like the defense, they basically brought all this information that the judge was saying like, come on now. But we did learn some new information from this case, right? We're talking about that roommate who survived, and new information came out about that roommate who was in the house during this case. And originally that roommate said that they saw the suspect in the house, but we learned some new information, at least from the defense.
Right. I mean, the defense was saying, oh, well, that roommate was drunk, right? They're essentially discrediting her testimony from before the trial even starts, right? And let's remember that her testimony is a big reason why we knew a description of Bryan Kohberger. We knew that he was, tall and bushy eyebrows, right? So for them to bring that up, we'll see what happens with that. But I will say, Steve Gonzalez, Kaylee's father, was in an interview recently, and he said, if you were woken up at 2 a.m. too, your story might change, your facts might change, because you're woken up in the middle of the night. You're not expecting it. And so of course there are some discrepancies in what she's saying, because that's just being a normal human being. That happens.
Sure. So. But what's interesting though, is emotionally, as a real person, sure, I'm going to take that to heart. Like, okay, you're stressed, it's early in the morning, or it's late at night, or you might have been drinking. We understand that. But what you're going to see in a court proceeding is a defense attorney is going to focus on that.
Yeah.
And all they need to do is kind of create that doubt in a jury. Are you 100% sure that you convict? And if not, then you can't. And that's how the court proceedings work. That's what Ann Bremner was talking about. And if they can bring up enough of that doubt to say, how do we trust this person? They were drinking.
Okay, maybe 6'2" then.
Because I saw this in the proceedings. They said something the defense attorneys are saying is not true, right? They were saying that one of the victims went up and down the stairs, and the defense attorney kind of hammered on that point, saying that didn't happen. We know that's not true. So if I'm a defense attorney, I have a jury who are expected to remove everything that they've heard up until this point, and I say this witness can't remember what they saw, and they tell you that they're drinking. Like, the emotions, everything that's there for us as people exists. But when you go into that courtroom, you're going to have to kind of be a blank slate and remove those emotions.
Absolutely. And like you just mentioned, beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's how they convict someone. So
Right. Reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt. If I say one thing and now you have doubt, and that's what the defense is going to go after.
Right. So
Yeah. Well, this is what we're going to be focusing on. We have the evidence. We're talking to the experts. As we mentioned, we have lawyers. We have mental health experts. We have detectives who are looking at all of the information that is out there, and they're looking at it in a way that we have not seen before. We're going to have our first episode. It's airing after the Super Bowl on Fox 13 Seattle, and we're going to have this podcast to go along with it. Make sure not only are you watching on air, but you're also listening to the conversations that you're going to be able to hear, honestly, a lot more kind of from us about everything that's going into these nice edited episodes. You're going to hear a lot of like what's going on behind the scenes. But for now, Shira, thank you so much for providing the context, for sitting through 2 days of these hearings. And I'm AJ Janabel. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, like that's kind of our job, right? To sit through the meetings. I was going to see if I could pull up. Let's see here. Like, I think it's his bone structure or something that makes it appear like he has bushier eyebrows, but then you get like pictures of him when he was like younger. I don't know. They look kind of bushy. This one has like a like I forget, like whatever it's called, like overlay over it, but the words. I mean, I think it's like the bone structure or something, like his eyes are set back or something, or maybe they're really round, like to the point where it gives this bone structure, like makes it prominent. I've definitely seen bushier eyebrows. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. My boyfriend has bushier eyebrows than Bryan Kohberger will ever probably have. I'm trying to. What am I doing? What is going on here? Go back to Google. I was gonna try to pull up like another picture of him. Actually, I have pictures on my overlays. I think so anyway. Let's see. Well, we got Luigi Mangione. He definitely has got some bushy eyebrows. That's some bushy eyebrows, if I've ever seen him. But like I don't know if I would say like maybe, I mean in the dark I probably would, because you have to think too, that's like I wish I had a mask on me, but like this is all covered. It's all black. So, I mean, that right there is going to be what she sees. And that's probably what her eyes are going to go to. Me, I probably wouldn't have looked him in the face. I probably would have been too scared to look him in the face. But I mean, his eyebrows could be bushy. Like there, they look bushy. Yeah, if he would have never dropped that sheath, I don't think they would have got him. Luigi, Mike, or Jimmy. We said that like when we first saw his picture when he was in the back of the cab. I said he looks like he's a pretty attractive guy. Like, who is this person? Because he looked like a little frat boy. And come to find out, his eyebrows are subject. Yeah, I think his eyes are deep set. Yeah. Yeah, that too. You're right, Micro Kim. Yeah. Let me see if there's another picture of him from the side. See, eyebrows don't look that bad right there. I'm sorry. This picture makes me laugh of him. I don't know what it is. I think it's because he's like half smiling and it's probably really creepy in my head, and I'm like laughing out of like, giggling out of just to giggle, but like out of uncomfortableness. But he saw Anne and he was like, there she is. There he is in high school. Gosh, I got a lot of pictures of Bryan Kohberger. Got another one. Oh, got another one. Now there's some bushy eyebrows. Okay. Now what happened here? What happened here, guys? We've got him over here. It looks like he was probably on the rugs of his life, like to the right. I mean, he is skinny. His neck is so small in that picture. To me, I mean, he just looks really small. He looks like he was rugging at the time. And then you got him in college, just unalived, 4 people. Looks like 2 different people. If you said these were the same person, I'd be like, no, they're not. Then we got him here when he's in the Latah County jail, There's this Ted Bundy picture. I don't know why, but he reminds me of Ted Bundy in that picture. Oh, got this one, but you can't really see his eyebrows. I have a lot of pictures of Bryan Kohberger. I think that's all of them. Yeah, that's all of them. But that's a lot. Shoot. Oh, and that Ashley Gilliard, I meant to tell you this earlier, the girl that got sued because of the TikTok, she was saying that Kaylee was like a lesbian and that Jack unalived her because her and Kaylee and the professor were together secretly having this lesbian affair. I mean, it was like the story was so far out there. Like, just when you thought you heard it all in this case, this lady comes out. Well, she's been kind of crazy. I found her old TikTok. It's Ashley is God 3. So it must have been her 3rd account that, hasn't got taken down. But the comment section alone on her videos is hilarious. Like, people are like, are you medicated? Are you like, she's something else. But let's see. This video got okay. She said solving mysterious deaths is hold on. She says she wrote a book. Yeah. Not seeing that book. Nope, there it is. But it's by Steve Wahlberg, not you, honey. Oh my gosh. We're going to go over there. Let me show you this one before we jump off here, because this is back in 2022. So before the murders, this is July 1st. So this is before she's already, she batshit crazy. But yeah, let's see.
Solving Tamla Horsford's death.
Okay, hold on.
So I wrote this book here, Solving Tamla Horsford's death. I did this without being there, and I used my spiritual gifts to do so. If you want to know what happened to Tamla that night, what really happened, click the link in my bio and download this book.
She what?
So I wrote this book here, Solving Tamla Horsford's death. I did this.
Tamara Horse's death. What are you talking about? This is solving mysterious deaths. Are you speaking English?
So I wrote this book here, Solving Tamla Horsford's death.
Are you all hearing something weird? And not that title, not solving mysterious deaths, because that's what that title says.
So I wrote this book here, Solving Tamla Horsford's death. I did this without being there.
We're going to go
I
back.
wrote this book here, Solving Tamla Horsford's
solving Tamla Horse's first death.
I did this without being there, and I used my spiritual gifts to do so. If you want to know what happened to Tamla that night, what really happened, click the link in my bio and download this book.
Oh my gosh.
So
we ain't doing that. Someone said you're getting sued. These are someone must have found her, Wow, look at this. What happened to Ashley? Where is she? Where are you? Only gifts you have is making up some nasty BS about these poor college students. Mm-hmm. You are ill. This is dangerous, manipulative, and exploitive. Yeah. You should write a book called Me and My Mental Illness. Oh, man. People are nuts. No, not yet. Her spiritual gifts are still telling her to keep on going, to keep on keeping on. Yeah, she got sued. She's still getting sued. And welcome in, everybody. Everybody hit that like button before I send creepy crawlies to your house to wake you up in the middle of the night. You know, like some YouTube videos say that. If not, the centipede will come out of the wall and get you. Yeah, should have seen that lawsuit coming. We did have fun listening to Ashley Gillard, though. I mean, you know, she was really out there. The thing is, she was like a tarot reader, right? But we never saw her cards. We saw them like one time. I have tarot cards. I was like, I'm going to be Ashley Gillard. I could have went as her for Halloween. That would have been a good gift. My dog is sitting out at the door, so I'm going to jump off here in a second. I think Vincent fell asleep, and she's being a sweetheart. So, we did Beauty for Ashes. We actually watched that the other day. I'll send crickets. Yes. But we are redoing the studio again. I know, again, this is the last time we're doing it because we never really redid it when we moved over here. We just got the 2 desks and like we got all like this stuff, but we didn't get like just like a setup for in here. And so back here I have a tree that you cannot even see, like a plant. It's not a tree, it's a plant. So that plant's going to go somewhere. I mean, it might stay in the room. I don't know, but it's going to be gone. And we got a big old table that's going to go right here. I really wanted a bike table. Those things are not cheap though. So your girl didn't have $1,000 for a table, but I really want a bike table. I've wanted one for like 5 years now. And I know where I could get one for like 700, but I don't want to give them people money. So, I'm not getting the bike table, but the table that we got is so nice. It is so nice. It's like 2-toned. And I really don't remember what we got, but we got a mirror today. It's going to go like over on this wall. So I'll give you guys a grand tour too of the whole place when we're done. And then we're going to put table over there. I still have my blue chair back here. You cannot even see it. We're going to get more lights in here. We're actually replacing these lights with better lights. And then this chair, I'm keeping it because I never use it. Like the dog sits on it. So I'm just going to shampoo it, make it all nice and pretty again. And which it looks nice right now. It's just a dark blue. I don't know why I chose blue. I don't really, I'm wearing like kind of like a blue color, but I don't really do blue. You're oh really? You're turning into a nursing. Oh, you could always do both. You only need a little. You can do like streaming in the smallest of spaces. I just am blind and I like a lot of room. I got a million monitors and stuff, you know. I'm just that's why. But I mean, I know people that like stream in the littlest of spots, like, and they just have like a white background and they have millions of people watching and views. I just needed like a refresh, a revamp, you know. You ever have to just like you need one? Like it was the beginning of the year. We didn't do vacation last year, so I think I just needed like a revamp. And I'm going to what else was I going to do? Oh, I'm going to start doing more pre-recorded videos for y'all. I got microphone today, 2 wireless mics that are I guess they're going to sound really good. So I'm excited now to like do some pre-recordeds. It's been a while since I've had like a scripted pre-recorded video. I mean, it's probably been over a year. It's been a long time. So I'm excited to start doing those for you guys. And like, you know, just giving a little bit more of myself. I mean, I do give a lot to the channel like as is, but I want to give a little more. And so we're going to do those. It's just going to be fun. So, and what else are we doing? I'm trying to think. All kinds of stuff. We just got all kinds of stuff going on. It's gonna be a good year. Good year. 2025. We're doing big things over here. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. Yeah, it's on this channel. We have it on this one. Yep. It's on my playlist. If you go under Idaho 4, or you can go under Bryan Kohberger, like the trial or something of Bryan Kohberger. And if you want to see any documentary, any podcast, anything. I mean, we even did the Roku podcast. They had a Roku podcast on this case. Go to my playlist, and I've got all kinds of videos. I thought about playing an old video on a live one night just to see what we were thinking back then, what we were doing. Could be actually very entertaining, because I used to get crazy back then, you know. For what, DM? Just for being here? You're welcome. And Mary Beth, thank you. Oh my gosh, you gifted 25, 30, 35 memberships tonight. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's such, oh my gosh. Y'all better keep the memberships too. I'll track you down. I'll write down all the names. I'm saying. But thank you guys for being here. I do appreciate you guys. And we will be doing some giveaways with our memberships and just with subscribers as well. So I'm getting settled in, and I'm trying to figure everything out, get like a plan together a little bit. You know, I like plans. I don't like just willy-nilly and things. So thank you guys again for being here. I'll see you guys all tomorrow on the live. If I have time, I'll try to do an afternoon live. But if not, I'll be on tomorrow evening. So I'll see you guys all then. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out, can't make a stop.